The question is, are we going to see a war between Ukraine and Russia soon? This is the question. A lot of people are saying yes, the war is just around the corner. We have to get ready for it, because the way Russia is behaving, especially towards the eastern Ukrainian border, everybody is suspecting that Russia is up to something and they are not up to something that is good. So Ukraine, now the problem with this, the whole saga is that Putin, Russia is saying that, look, Ukraine, you cannot become part of the NATO, you cannot become part of the European Union, and ditching us at the same time. Okay, their problem is not that Ukraine is maintaining its border and be peaceful. That is not the problem. That is no issue. Russia is saying, why do you go to NATO? Why do you ally with the European Union at the expense of our friendship? When the Maidan Revolution took place in the late 2013, I believe it was like November 2013 up until 2014 February, when that revolution took place, that during that time, what Ukraine did is Ukraine signed a deal ditching European Union and allying with Russia. What people in Ukraine said, well, why you are siding with Russia when European Union, they are much better because they have more money. We need to go with them, not with Russia. So we are going to overthrow. So the government under the Viktor Yanukovych, he was the president at that time. They deposed that government. They kicked him out. They said, we do not want you. And that happened again in 2014, beginning of 2014. So what Russia did, Russia, immediately after that happened, Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine. And we know that there was sanction going on from the European countries, that they imposed sanction on Russia because of that. So the point here is that things are not good for the last 7-8 years for both Russia and Ukraine, especially after that revolution took place where this government had to be deposed. Russia did not like it. On top of this, now Ukraine, this government under this Zelensky government, they are becoming pro-European every single day. They are pro-US every single day. Russia is saying, this is not good. We do not feel comfortable with this kind of decisions because you guys are our border, at our border. You guys are our neighbor, and we don't feel comfortable. You are allying with NATO because then NATO will be right at our doorstep, and we don't feel comfortable with that. We do not have problem maybe with your business dealing with the European Union, but we have problem if you allow NATO to come at our doorstep because Ukraine, Russia, they're bordering, they're neighbors. That is where our problem is. So let's take a listen at this report and see if we can make some more comments. This is, dear viewers, going to be very, very dangerous. It can escalate. Simply because
a sharp escalation in fighting in eastern
simply because the behavior that Ukrainian government under Zelensky is showing, which Russia is not very happy at all.
Ukraine, and reports of a Russian troop buildup at the border. It could signal an end to another ceasefire in the region. So, what next for a conflict now in its 8th year? Is there any chance of a lasting peace? This is Inside Story.
Another thing that I want to make mention is that he mentioned the word lasting peace. Okay, what will happen right now will have ramifications in the next coming years, maybe in decades, unless there is a war and everything ends. It will have consequences if what Ukraine is doing right now, if they do not stop, if they do not cease, if they do not make Russia comfortable with whatever their foreign policy is about, especially with NATO, then we might see a big escalation in the region, which might actually bring more players into this game. Maybe China will get involved. Maybe countries like who are allied with Russia, some of the Eurasian countries might get involved with an ally with Russia and say that, you know what, we'll support you, go ahead and do whatever you want with NATO, we will back you up. So we might see a big problem brewing up in the coming months and years. We do not know, but this is very, very dangerous. Situation is really, really dangerous right now. So I'm gonna be playing the video from here.
have made it clear Kiev will not be left alone if
this.
Russia launches an offensive in the region. We'll discuss this with our guest shortly, but first, Nadim Baba reports.
It's pictures like this that have got the government in Kiev so concerned. A week ago, 4 Ukrainian soldiers were killed in fighting in the east. Now Kiev's accusing Russia of preparing to expand its military presence in the separatist-controlled regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, as well as the border with Crimea to the south.
Москва має припинити військове нагнітання.
On Thursday, Ukraine's foreign minister called on Moscow to, quote, immediately and unconditionally reaffirm its commitment to a political and diplomatic settlement and a ceasefire regime.
The government they have in Kiev, in Ukraine, this is a pro-US, pro-European government. They would do whatever it takes to make sure that they never go back to become part of Russia. And that is dangerous, because if you have that extreme view, if you are sitting in the government position with this mindset of, we will do whatever it takes, whether our citizen like it or not, whether our citizen, they themselves want to become part of Russia or not, we don't care, as long as we want as long as we have what we want through NATO and the European countries through them, that we don't care the rest of it. So that stubbornness is there, because this is the danger of losing your country to foreigners. When we lose our country, it doesn't have to be like, well, other countries are invading. It can also be that our government becomes a puppet. So I don't know. What I want to see personally is, I want to see the dream, the ambition of the Ukrainian people come into fruition. I do not want to see what is happening with Russia, Ukraine. I don't care about Russia. I care about Ukrainian people. I care about what they think. And looks like with this kind of government, it is impossible really to say, well, this is exactly what we want, when the government is also already biased against Russia.
President Joe Biden has spoken directly with the Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky. The White House says he affirmed the United States' unwavering support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity in the face of Russia's ongoing aggression.
We discussed the situation in Donbass in detail. President Biden assured us that Ukraine will never be left alone against Russia's aggression.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says any new conflict in the east would, quote, destroy Ukraine. He's warned against incitement.
So did you just listen what he said? Sergei Lavrov, he said it will completely destroy Ukraine. He's already saying what will be the outcome. Do not mess with Russia. You will be destroyed forever, forever. This is what he's saying.
By Western powers. With the NATO defense alliance saying it's concerned about a Russian build-up, Moscow says the real threat is NATO sending troops to Ukraine.
Yep, that's what they don't like.
Undoubtedly, such a scenario would lead to a further increase of tension near the Russian border.
Russia does not want to see NATO at their doorstep. Now, Russia does not want, because NATO can collect intelligence easily. NATO can install missile system. NATO can do whatever they want right on the shoulder of, pretty much, on the shoulder of Russia. They can breathe on their shoulder. They can smell them. They can feel them. They can, sense it all. So Russia, in other words, saying, if you are going with NATO, then, done deal. The day Ukraine will join NATO, I don't think they're part of NATO right now, but the day they will join NATO, if they do, I'm telling you, it might be a war declaration against Russia. Because Russia, again, they will say, we do not want to compromise our information. We do not want to compromise our intelligence. We do not want to compromise our sovereignty. Because if Ukraine, you join with NATO, then NATO will know anything and everything about us. It is much easier for them that way.
Of course, this will require additional security measures from the Russian side.
In February 2014, the so-called Maidan revolution saw Ukraine's Russia-friendly president Viktor Yanukovych deposed and the opposition take power. The next month, Russian forces annexed Crimea from Ukraine, prompting Western sanctions. In April 2014, pro-Russian separatists seized part of the eastern Donbass region, starting the internal military conflict in Ukraine. In 2019, television actor Vladimir Zelensky was elected Ukraine's president. He and President Putin agreed to exchange prisoners and commit to a ceasefire. Last July, a ceasefire with Donetsk separatists was agreed, but it's close to breaking.
So, did you just listen what he said? He said that both of these presidents, Zelensky and Putin, they wanted to have a ceasefire, and they did. They did have an agreement that we will not fight in 2019 when he came to power. But what is the problem now? Again, Ukraine's interest, eagerness to join the NATO. That's it. That is what is making Putin and Russia very uncomfortable.
And now the Ukrainian leaders provoked Russian anger.
He went after the pro-Russia media empire belonging to one of Vladimir Putin's confidants in Ukraine, closing down 3 pro-Russian TV channels and severely weakening the influence of pro-Russian narrative in Ukraine. And keep in mind, Putin's overarching goal has always been to to put these puppet regimes in the Donetsk and Luhansk back into Ukraine.
So again, situation is very, very volatile right now, to say the least. We do not know what to expect in the coming days, but we might see a war. That is by all means a huge possibility. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon again. Take care.